Hi guys, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be transforming this roof here into this lovely EPDM rubber roof, which is fully weatherproof and is going to protect my sauna from the UK weather. So without further ado, let's move on to the first job, which is adding some fascia and soffit. Now in this instance, I'm going to be using cladding here, cedar cladding for the soffits, and the reason for this is I want the fascia and soffit to match the cladding that's going to be going around the sauna itself. I just want that whole kind of wooden feel to the build. I just think it looks a little bit more authentic. So I actually designed the overhangs to be exactly the thickness of a piece of cladding here, just to avoid any ripping down or messing about. And it's just a case of cutting these to length, holding them in place, which Evie's very kindly given me a hand with. And then once I've got them where I want them, I can just add a couple of pins in to add them in place, as you'll see me doing here. A couple in the middle, obviously make sure everything's nice and flush. And then once that's done, I can just proceed to add a couple of fixings all the way along, like so. So not very complicated at all here. Following that, I'm going to move on to the fascia boards. And likewise, this is also cedar. However, it's not cladding. I ordered these with the cladding and I ordered them with the specific dimensions. So these also required no real work to rip down or anything like that. It was just a case of cutting them to length. The sides, on the other hand, which Stanley's giving me a little hand here with, they did need a little rip down because obviously the roof is slightly sloped. So I just did that with a circular saw. And again, the installation of this is very simple. All I've done is created a little mark on the center of the fascia board, a little mark on the center of the roof, lined them up and then fixed it with a couple of nails, and that's ensured that the ends are nice and flush and exactly where I wanted them to be. So not terribly complicated. And you know, honestly, I think this is actually a little bit easier than the UPVC fascias and soffits that I've added in the past. And as you can see, it just looks really nice. It frames that roof off. It really makes quite a lot of difference. So I'm just going to take the sharp edges off here with my block plane, and then I'm going to go across the entirety of the roof here with the orbital sander. And really what I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to remove any sort of sharp or rough edges, you know, where the screws have gone in maybe and the OSB's spelched up a little bit. I just don't want anything sharp or rough to have any chance of damaging that rubber roof. So once that's done, I'm going to add a piece of roof lat here onto the back edge. So this is kind of treated 2x1. And this is for the drip trim. So this is potentially where I could add a gutter. For this build, I'm not initially going to add a gutter. I think it's going to be fine just dripping off the back. We have a really nice gravel grid base down there, which is completely free draining. So I don't really see the need for a gutter. And as you can see, once that lat's on, I can add the first part of the UPVC drip trim. So this goes under the rubber folds over this, and then there's another piece that goes on top to kind of sandwich the rubber EPDM roof for this edge, just to create that nice little drip trim. Okay, so once that's done, I'm just going to give the roofer a really nice little brush, get all that sort of sawdust off from that sanding, make sure it's lovely and clean, ready for this rubber. I'm going to roll the rubber out, line it up, and the goal here really is just to lay it in place and leave it there for around half an hour. Just let the creases kind of drop out of it, let it relax a little bit. You can see that I'm just going to go around now, make sure it's nice and even and exactly where I want it, give it a little brush to get creases out. And when I come back, you can see how that looks now. So it's looking really nice and smooth, and we can just get straight on with attaching this down to the OSB. So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the roof back to about the midpoint, maybe a little bit further I think here. Obviously this roof is lovely and clean, we give it a nice little brush off. So we're ready to apply an adhesive, so I'm just going to jump down and grab that now. So I've got myself the paint tray there, a long roller rather than a little roller, so I can do this stood up. I also have a little box there, and that's to put the adhesive tub in. And the reason for this is this stuff is super sticky. You really don't want to get this on the actual finished roof itself. Likewise, you don't want to get it on the bottom of your feet or anything like that, else you will find yourself sticking to the roof pretty quickly. But other than that, this is pretty straightforward. You just put it in and then just roll it out across the roof. Obviously you want to get a really nice covering, make sure you get it all over the edges. I went over this a couple of times. Now, I will point out as well, I'm doing this in autumn, so this isn't like drying really fast. I have done one of these in summer before when I did my garden room, and it went off really fast. The weather was hot, probably like high 20s, and this stuff was, you know, I'd get to one side and the other side was starting to go translucent because the adhesive was drying that fast. Right now when I'm doing this, it's probably around 10, 12 degrees, and I had no issues in that regard. But just something to bear in mind, if you are doing this in summer, yeah, you really need to sort of move fast with this stuff. But it's not bad. Any other time when it's not red hot, it actually dries at quite a reasonable rate. So what you can see me doing here is I'm just applying the adhesive, and as I've got that fully covered the area, I'm going to just rub the roof onto it. I'm going to brush over it to try and get any bubbles or creases out, and that really is it. It's quite straightforward. So roll the other side back to meet where I've got the adhesive already. Then I'm going to roll it over again, brush it, and just keep applying the adhesive. So I really can't state enough how simple these rubber roofs are to install. It's one of those jobs that I feel like it seems intimidating. You can see how it looks now, looking pretty good. Yeah, it feels intimidating because it seems like a big job, but it's actually, relatively easy. Okay, so I'm going to actually show you now adding this second part of drip trim. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the rubber tight down, and then I'm just going to apply poly pins straight through the holes here into the other piece of drip trim, and that's going to nip the roof in and pull it nice and tight, and it's going to give a nice smooth edge that water can just run over and drip off. I'm also going to trim the rubber off on the bottom there, and following that I'm also going to trim all the way around to around 50mm, which you can see here, and I did that with a pair of scissors, which you can see at the back right of the roof there. Once that's done, I'm going to start adding the edge pieces on. These I believe are called curb trims or edge trims, but these are essentially just going to stop water from running off the sides of the roof. So water's going to fall down onto the roof, and then obviously it's going to run against these sides and off the drip trim edge. And this basically works with a piece of foam that runs underneath the lip there, and you just compress that down onto the rubber and then just apply the poly pins in through the pre-drilled holes on the side. So there's not really a lot of thinking to do here. You just got to cut it to length, compress it down, and get those fixings in. Quite straightforward, and very effective. Obviously once this is down, no water's going to be able to drip over that edge, so it's going to completely seal and make that edge nice and waterproof. So same job on the other side. You can see me just adding the poly pins in there, and then for the longer edge here I'm going to be cutting two pieces so I can have a nice even joint in the middle. So as you can see here, same job, pushing it down, putting the pins in. Same on the other side, push that down, get those pins in, and then I'm just going to put a nice little cover on the middle there just to tidy that up. Then we can move on to the corner pieces. So these just slot over. These are provided with the kit that I bought. And it's just a case of adding a nail in either side of these, little poly pins again. Then once that's done, we can move to the other side. So this is the drip trim side, and you can see I've only popped one side of that out there, and I've left the other side in. And the reason for that is one side is just going to slot over the curb trim once my arm moves, and you can see that the other sits nice and flush on top of that drip trim. So really, really straightforward. And listen guys, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet here, but I think this looks like a really professional job, and that is really nothing to do with my level of skill. This is more to do with just how easy these roofs are to install. I honestly think that anybody with no experience could install one of these and do a really good job. So I hope you enjoyed the video guys. Let me know what you think. Did I do a decent job? And if you want to see the rest of this sauna build, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.